Hello guys, this is a review of the movie Disconnect. Disconnect follows the story of several main characters, so it won't be mentioning specific names. However, there will be pictures up for reference. We'll talk a little bit about what the movie's about first, and then I'll get into my opinions about it. One of the main characters in this movie is a reporter who wants to interview a 17-year-old guy to bring light to how certain adults lure kids into this industry by promising them a place to sleep, a place to eat, and lots of money. And she also, of course, sees it as a good career move on her part. The 17-year-old guy is very adamant about doing this. He feels very appreciative of the person that brought him in, so he is very wary of like the information that he gives out to people. Like I said, this is filmed in a hyperlink cinema type of way. I think that's what Google told me this style of filmmaking is. So there's a lot of stories that intertwine. Another one of the main characters is a lawyer. His son is, I'd say, between 13 and 15-year-old teenage boy. He's being bullied by two other boys his age. And at one point in the movie, the bullies decide to make a fake profile of a girl who claims to have fallen in love with a shy kid. And then they ask him to send nudes of himself, which he does. As you may imagine, they share it with the entire school. He is mortified and tries to die of suicide by way of hanging. Nobody has details about what happened specifically, but the dad of the bully who posted those pictures happens to be a cybersecurity detective. He was a former cop, and he is working to assist a couple who recently lost their baby boy, and they're grieving and they're going through a period of not communicating, hence the title Disconnect. Within every story there's a lot of disconnect happening. The wife, that couple, joins a support group online, and the detective finds a lead and thinks that one of the guys who was there and being very supportive of her is the one that scammed them. So the husband, being a retired Marine, he gathers his things. They both head out, find him, and try to terrify him, try to threaten him, try to scare him. Then eventually they figure, when they get a call from the detective in the last minute, that that is not even the person that they were looking for. There are lots of, like I said, lots of difficult moments throughout the film. Let's talk a little bit about what I think. The movie's fantastic. I really like the movie. I think the movie is very, very well made. The movie is realistic. The movie does a fantastic job at not vilifying a single character and making the other one the absolute hero. It really highlights the way that the real world works, in that people, no matter how centered, no matter how wise, no matter how patient we think we are, when put in difficult situations such as the characters in this film, we may end up making these very poor decisions. Well, I mean, one of the main poor decisions is going to threaten this guy when you're not even sure if he's the one who took your money, right? They think that they maybe send them a link and then he had access to his bank accounts and got them, wiped them out. But it's not always the case. But sometimes you're going through difficult times at work, and then you're grieving the loss of a family member, and it gets very tough. One of my favorite moments in the movie is near the end, because a little bit of context. So the reporter finally gets the interview with the 17-year-old webcam model, right? She gets a visit from FBI agents who tell her this is a serious crime. Like, there are confidentiality agreements, and there has been a trust and a bond created between them, but this goes beyond that because it's a very serious crime. You need to tell us where he works, you need to tell us who he works with, and all that jazz. She is heartbroken because she means well, but near the end she goes to find them because they get notified that they're gonna get raided. So the guy and all the kids in the house, they leave, they go to a nearby motel, and she's like, I can still help you, I promise. Like, they tricked me. I didn't have any, like, I couldn't have figured this out, but I could help you. And he asks her, well, can I stay with you then? Can I live with you? And she's like, I can't promise, let's talk about that later. He's like, no, tell me now. She ends up telling him that he's too young for her, and he's like, you know what, you think that this guy took advantage of me, but you take advantage of people, you scam people, you use people. And that got to me, because once again, sometimes we have in our heads, oh, I'm gonna help so and so, and we don't realize until much later that they didn't need much help. Maybe they were fine on their own, and maybe it was an ego thing. Maybe it was a, without realizing, right? We were trying to get some sort of benefit out of quote unquote helping someone else. I mean, we see it all the time with people giving money to, or food to homeless people, putting a camera all over their face. It's like, oh, well, I mean, I think sometimes it's warranted because it does perpetuate the message of, hey, pass it on, pass it on, pass it on. But other times I think it's a little bit in poor taste. Anyway, this movie, one of the things that I could criticize about it is that in the climax, when, because it's a build-up movie, once it gets to that climax, they shoot the shot in or the shots, because it's several characters at different times, different places, sorry. They do it in slow motion, and I think that it would have been more explosive and more gut-wrenching if it would have been a little bit faster, because there's a lot of aggression and physical violence in that scene, or those scenes. I keep saying that scene because I'm used to watching a movie from start to finish. This style of filmmaking, which isn't my favorite, but for some reason this one I was just very drawn to. The only reason why I ever bought it in the first place, right over there, is because of Max Thieriot. I'm a very big fan of his ever since My Soul to Take from Wes Craven. And he's a fantastic actor, and sorry, everybody in this movie is a fantastic actor as well. I have no complaints about that, no complaints about the writing. I also want to put out my own personal thoughts about the whole adult entertainer and beyond industry. I think that it's very important to highlight that the issue here is the fact that these kids are being tricked, coerced into this industry, and that's what's wrong. They shouldn't even be partaking in anything adult related. But if you're an adult, you are aware you are not being forced into this. And maybe you see this as a way of making money to get through college, which it really shouldn't come down to this. That's a whole different topic. But anyway, back to the point, I think that adult entertainers, webcam models, actors, actresses, they deserve respect. It's very hypocritical of consumers to point the finger and laugh and mock when you are the one essentially paying for it. So that's what I have to say about that. I think that when I first watched this movie, I can't remember exactly when I did, but when I did, I was a lot younger, and I really empathized with the young boy who ended up in the hospital. We get a lot of we get a closure for a lot of characters, but I feel like for that family we don't, because we don't really see what happens. We don't see if he survives or if he dies. But it does bring the family together. And when I watched it, I felt like that's also because there are so many problems. I'm gonna lean back a little bit. My back is hurting. There are so many problems with being glued to your personal device. Personally, when I'm hanging out with friends and family, people that I care about, my phone is nowhere to be seen, unless it's I'm using it as a resource to get from point A to point B with GPS or something like that, or taking a quick picture. But other than that, I am present. I think quality time is my love language. It's really important to me, and it's something that is going away by the day. You see people when you're supposed to come together and do something as a family or whatever, and people are just glued to their devices like, oh my gosh, so and so got married, so and so did this, so and so did that. It's like, you don't even know 90% of those people, like, it really doesn't matter. I guess, it's sometimes it's gossip's a little bit interesting, but we should definitely learn to prioritize the present and live in the moment for sure. Because the underlying issue with all the characters in this movie is that they are not disconnecting from those devices. They're not disconnecting from work. They're not disconnecting from everything that is not human. And I understand that it's very difficult. The couple, for example, who lost the baby, who am I to tell them, oh, just stop the support group, just go to your husband? It's very difficult. But if the husband was open, and if the wife was open to communicating, seeing and feeling everything that they have to feel, then they wouldn't have been scammed, very likely. If the lawyer was not so preoccupied or solely preoccupied with work and thinking, oh, it's normal, teenage stuff, he'll get through it, he would have had that conversation with his son. And his son would have had better skills to cope with these bullying and these types of realities of life that are sometimes unavoidable. I hate to say it, but it's the truth. Sometimes it isn't up to you, therefore it's out of your control. But you can control how you react and how you handle these situations. The bully, there's a very lovely scene where he goes to visit the kid in the hospital that he bullied, but nobody knows it's him up to that point. He meets the father of the son in the hospital, and they become friendly with each other. And it's that communication, father and son relationship, that he's lacking, that he's needing, that guidance. He feels like he's in jail. He feels tied. He feels bossed around, and he feels misunderstood. Oftentimes, as the cliche goes, the bullies are bullying people because they are being hurt at home. And it's very true most of the time. I guess there are a certain percentage of people who are born without empathy and who are just going to harm just to harm, but it's very, very rare. Or severe mental health cases. All in all, I think I really feel for the reporter. I also want to talk a little bit more about that, because she is that clear example of wanting to do something well and not realizing that it's also for your own benefit. Like, I mean, she realized that it was going to be a good career move, but she didn't do it solely because of that, and she meant what she said. But she was put in a situation of, oh, you may even go to jail. You may even lose your job. You may even this, that. So she had to betray the trust of him. She had to do it. And I feel so bad. I think she's one of the ones that I feel worst for, even though I do feel bad for practically every character, because every character, whether it's their fault, whether it's not their fault, they end up being hurt deeply. And this isn't a movie that I want to watch every single day, and I'm so jolly to put it on. It isn't. I think that, especially, I rewatched it a few days ago, and not being in a very stable state of mind is probably not the best time to watch this movie, because it hurts deep, but it has a very good message. I am very happy that I gave it a try. I may be upgrading it to Blu-ray because I'm trying to upgrade most of my DVDs. But yeah, I think that's it for this one. I give it a rating of 9 out of 10 in its category. And thank you for watching.